What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Talkative. We're back. This is episode 12. I'm your host, Jason Martinez, and welcome back to another week. Thank you to everyone who's currently listening, and hopefully you guys are doing okay in this Wednesday morning. Technically, we still got 6 more minutes, but we got a lot to talk about today. A lot to unpack, a lot to give my views on, and just give my thoughts on. And just to start, we're going to start with yesterday's Apple's March 8th event. And whew, okay, as they were marketing, as they were advertising, this event was for peak performance, and that's what it really was. If you go watch through it again, because the chip changes, the processor changes and moves that they did with their products is literally second to none, phenomenal, and I'm hoping that this could live up to the hype because a lot was revealed today. For starts, I mean, just to get the you could say irrelevant stuff out the way. If you guys like Apple TV, Friday Night Baseball is coming to Apple TV for the very first time. So if you guys are baseball fans and you guys use Apple TV and Apple TV Plus, that's a plus free for any one of you guys who use that service. And the iPhone SE was revealed, which, okay, in a way, I can't really say that this is irrelevant or that this wasn't an important part of the show, because it was rumored that this new iPhone SE 3, which it's pretty much the same phone from the SE from 2020, nothing changed for the chassis, nothing changed for the overall design. They just brought in the current iPhone 13 Pro A15 Bionic, which, like I said before, it was previously rumored that the A13 was going to be the updated chip that they're going to install into the phone. But no, they actually brought the power of the A15, the most current Apple Silicon for mobile devices, onto the iPhone SE3. So more power to the user, graphically, performance-wise, and it's just great. But like I said, overall the phone hasn't changed in overall design. It's still the same phone. And I guess this is a major negative along with it. The price did go up. So the phone is now starting at $430 compared to the original price, which, bear with me, I think it was around 350. I could be wrong. It was around 300 around there. So it went up by a couple of $100. I need to double check on that. I need to double check it because I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's the iPhone SE3. If you're looking for a more convenient option, or if this is your first smartphone that you're getting, I'd suggest you go for that price. But if you're trying to upgrade from your current iPhone SE 2020, to be honest, I say hold off for another year or another few years, because it's speculated that the next major upgrade for the SE series won't be until 2024. So it's unfortunate circumstances, but you do as you wish. Everyone who's within the tech space and is a tech geek and loves tech, they'll buy it just to have it, collect devices, or just to, say that I've owned this device, or they'll hold off, save money, and just wait till the next major installment, the next major upgrade. So yeah, so that's the iPhone SE. Updates to Apple TV Plus. They also added new movies to Apple TV Plus as well. But now, okay, we got all the little stuff out the way. Now these were the big boys of the entire event. This starts the iPad Air. This is the third out of the group of iPads that Apple sells. So you got the iPad Pro series, the iPad Mini, and then the iPad Air. This is the fifth generation. And folks, this is the second iPad that has the M1 chip integrated inside. And to be honest, personally, I didn't think they were going to expand on their horizons with integrating these powerful silicons and these powerful custom-made chips. But the fact that the M1 went from a desktop laptop chip to now being an iPad Pro and now the iPad Air, which is Not as cheap, but it's cheaper than the iPad Pro. It's pretty huge. It's pretty dang huge. And for a lot of people that are looking to get into iPads, you guys are now gonna have a more powerful tablet in a more smaller size and a more convenient price. Like I said, 600 starting off and fully spec'd out. You're already paying $1,000 if you fully spec'd out the iPad with the max storage, Wi-Fi and cellular, 5G, all that type of stuff. If you fully spec this thing out, you're paying upfront up to $1,000. But if you're just getting, default options, base models, just basic 64 gig. If you're not getting cellular and just getting Wi-Fi. Also, if you're not buying any accessories like Apple Pen and the Magic Keyboard and the Magic Trackpad and the Magic Mouse, then you're paying around like 700 because of tax. So, I mean, yeah, it's cheaper if you're not fully speccing out the device with accessories, high storage, and all that type of stuff. But I'm happy, dude. I'm happy because me personally, I was looking into getting an iPad myself, and I might consider buying the iPad Air now. And I was like, oh, should I get the Pro? Like, it's either between the Air and the Pro. And the Pro, at that current time when I was considering buying an iPad, the Pro was the one with the highest end chip. It was the most powerful tablet out of the three. So now we have a second option. Now we can choose, which is phenomenal. And since the M1 chip is such a powerful machine in performance and efficiency with battery life, it's crazy that we're expanding on chip horizons when we're integrating these devices, and that's phenomenal. So yeah, M1 chip on the iPad Air, and there's also a new purple color for the Air, kind of fit the spring vibe. Oh, I almost forgot on the little parts of the event, the small parts of the event. The iPhone 13 lineup, so the base 13 model and the 13 Pro, now have two green color options to fit the spring vibe and for the spring release. I think the Pro has an Alpine green, and I forget the name for the base model's green, but it's a more darker green. The Alpine green, just to bring this up, the Alpine green kind of reminds you of Midnight Green, which is nice because that color on the 11 series 3 years ago, it was a phenomenal color. So it's kind of like they kind of brought that color back. Because in a way, I mean, if you were to compare those two shades of greens, they look very similar. So could be the return of that green that we had for the 11 series because it looks very similar. So Alpine green and a more darker shade of green for the base iPhone 13. So I mean, personally, the color doesn't look all that great, but the Alpine green does though. So if you're looking for a new fresh color and you like green, you like the shade of green, you would want to pick one of those up. So yeah, back to the iPad. So yeah, M1 chip is now an iPad Air. Impressive. I mean, the iPad Air as it is, with Touch ID on the power button. When these chips were running on the Apple Silicon, the A series, they were phenomenal devices as a whole. So now that we have the power of a desktop chip on a more smaller form factor is impressive. Like I said, it's just Apple now expanding their horizons when it comes to integrating their own custom chips in every device. I mean, this is kind of like a long stretch, but this is like a very ambitious thought that I always had. Now that we have Apple Silicons and desktops, tablets, when are we ever going to get an M1 iPhone? Like I said, long stretch, probably never going to happen because the A series as it is, the A series is a phenomenal processor, extremely efficient, extremely powerful, and it's only going to get better because I'm pretty sure it's rumored that the A16 is going to be a 2 nanometer processor, so probably even more efficient with battery life and probably even more fast by the time we get 2 nanometers processors. So if the A16 does become more powerful, that just solidifies the state where the Apple A series is at. It's just powerful as it is. There's no need to really reach that limit. But I mean, if Apple wants to do it, I mean, hell, do it. I mean, put the M1 chip. Doesn't have to be the M1 Pro, the M1 Max, and the new one that was revealed at the event, which we'll get to in a moment. But if you ever get to that ambitious level, just put the base M1 chip on an iPhone and let's just see the world. Or let's just see this rocket just go off, dude, because that would be literally impressive. At that point, they'll have their own custom chips. Well, A15, the A series is custom, but you get what I mean. But at that point, they'll have the M1 series in three of their form factors already: tablets, computers, desktops, and now smartphones. But like I said, the A series is already a good chip as it is. So I don't think Apple would really make that type of move anytime soon. That's just a big ambition of mine, a big thought of mine that could happen, but it'll never happen. Or that I would want to happen, but it'll probably never happen. But yeah, so M1 and iPad Air, good stuff. Really happy because now, like I said, I'm just gonna recap on what I said. Now, consumers and customers will have an option between the iPad Pro and the iPad Air. They won't be stuck on the iPad Pro solely because it has a better chip, and that's phenomenal. So that was one of that was pretty unexpected for me. Just a quick little tidbit. Apple literally revealed Apex Legends Mobile during the event while they were demonstrating the iPad Air with the power of the M1. So I'm kind of interested to see how that was planned or how that came about, because Apex Mobile is only currently available in select territories and Asian territories, but it's currently in beta also. Like the full game isn't even out. So I'm kind of curious if they teased a potential beta for the Western territories like the US, Canada, etc. and coming soon. So I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. But yeah, they nonchalantly revealed Apex Legends Mobile while demonstrating the iPad Air, and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. I'll have to check out the Twitter pages for both Respawn Entertainment and the Apex Legends to see what the development is going on with that, because I was kind of surprised. But yeah, Apex Legends Mobile was revealed out of nowhere. Just a little tidbit. But yeah, back to the event. So we got M1 and iPad Air, the upgraded iPhone SE3. It wasn't much of an upgrade, to be honest. And oh boy, this is the big elephant in the room, literally, because the Mac Studio with the brand new Mac Studio display was finally revealed. We have another powerful desktop PC machine, and I put emphasis on the word powerful because we have another chip created by Apple, which is essentially, I see it as the power of the M1 Pro and then the power of the M1 Pro Max, the M1 Max, integrated together, fused together, no pun intended, because I'll get to that in a moment, fused together into one enormous chip with up to 20 cores of GPU processing, and I think 40 cores of CPU. I'll have to look back at that as well. It's a lot of numbers, so these numbers are you could forget them easily. So yeah, but this chip is enormous, and the reason why I said pun intended to the word fuse is because the way they were able to connect two chips into one was through a ultra fusion architecture that allows the power of both chips and data being sent through to that particular ultra fusion architecture that was created to put those two chips together. And if you look at the comparison, I mean, they compared the original M1 Pro and the M1 Max, and then the M1 Ultra just towering. Like I know the graphics and pictures don't do it justice because these chips are small, but when you compare them side by side to one another, this chip is enormous and it blows away in performance. Obviously, if you know Apple and you know how they've been doing with these events, every time there's a desktop or PC revealed, they like to, take jabs and compare them to their competitors. So they say that this M1 Ultra chip is even more powerful. I mean, this is not really a competitor comparison, they're kind of comparing products. But, well, no, actually, I was wrong. Because they're comparing their Mac Pro, which is powered on an Intel chip, one of the most powerful Intel chips at the time. They're comparing the M1 Ultra chip. So they say when it comes to overall core performance, M1 Ultra chip is 2 times faster than the chip that the Mac Pro was running under back a few years ago. So you have all the graphs, you have all the numbers. Take all these with a grain of salt. I always say this. Take numbers and graphs and, anything that's used for marketing and just overall promoting. Take that with a grain of salt, because you won't know if a product or if a tech device is that well performing in efficiency as well and efficient until you actually buy one and use it for yourself and utilize it for your overall workflow. So it seems impressive on paper on these graphs with these numbers, but we won't actually know how powerful this chip is until you have content creators or even overall common consumers and people that buy these products on a regular actually use them and put these devices to the test with their overall workflows, which can vary because people can have smaller workflows or people can have larger workflows depending on what they specialize in or what they work in. So like I said, yeah, take these graphs with a grain of salt because we won't know until we use it. But yeah, I mean, on paper this chip looks phenomenal. Up to 20 cores, 40 cores CPU, extremely efficient. Oh, and let me not forget this spec. This chip has 128 gigabytes of unified memory, aka RAM. 128 gigabytes. When I saw this, when I was watching this and I saw it for the first time, my initial reaction was, what the actual beep? Because I can't say the actual word because of YouTube. But anyways, you guys get the point. My reaction was just that. I was like, what am I looking at? You're telling me that 64 gigabytes of RAM on a spec'd out rig PC, on a Windows PC, it's not a lot, but you guys just raised the bar. Hey, editing Jason in the flesh. Real quick, I just wanted to elaborate that I was wrong. It turns out that you can get up to 128 gigabytes of a home pro edition of a Windows PC. You can get up to that amount of RAM on a Windows PC as well. So, no, this is not anything brand new. I was just unaware of that, and now I just had to, re-elaborate and correct myself in that manner. You can get up to 128 gigabytes of RAM on the standard gaming PC that runs on a Windows or a regular Windows laptop or what have you. So yeah, just wanted to re-elaborate on that. Back to the show. Thank you. And CPUs complement one another. They're integrated to one another. So the fact that they were able to bump the usual unified number for a GPU unit or overall processing unit for a PC or a desktop device to 128 is monumental. Dude, apps are literally not going to refresh. You're going to be able to have Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop, and just Final Cut Pro all open all at once. Go from page to page, seamless, quick, snappy animations because of this much RAM. Like when I saw that number, dude, I'm like, okay, this surely cannot be real. But if you actually go on the website and you're specking out one of these Mac Studios, yeah, it's real. It's real. This M1 Ultra chip has over 128 gigabytes of RAM. And I was like, this cannot be real, man. This cannot be real. They really meant it when they said peak performance. When they were marketing this event as peak performance, they meant that. Literally. So yeah, those are just the overall minor specs for that chip and the Mac Studio. Oh, the Mac Studio, just to briefly talk, I don't want to talk too much on the event because there's still a few other topics that I want to get through. But there, like I said, there's a lot to unpack. So if we have a moment, if you guys want to hear more about my thoughts on the Apple event, I'll make sure I'll look into some of the numbers because I know I got some of the numbers messed up. So bear with me. So if you guys want me to come back to this event, without a doubt I'll do it. But just to briefly recap on the Mac Studio, the Mac Studio is essentially, it's kind of confusing right now because people don't know if it's a Mac Pro Mini, so the initial Mac Pro, like Apple's official rig, or if it's a Mac Mini Pro. I see it's kind of like a fusion of the Mac Pro and the Mac Mini in a way, like the in between. And the in between is just perfect because when you look at the overall design, it's very compact to the point where if you have it under a display, it won't get in the way or budge in with the display or hit the display. It's just the right size. I mean, it's a little box. Like this PC is a little box. So the fact that they made it really compact, the size, it's not over exaggerated. It's nice. It's nice that they're making a more powerful version, essentially, of the Mac Mini, but just with the right dimensions, and just with the right lamps and widths and the proper size. And just to talk about ports, you got HDMI, 4 Thunderbolt, USB-A, 2 USB-A ports on the back, 2 USB-C ports on the front, micro SD slot, and a headphone jack for whatever type of headphones you want to utilize. So those are the ports. Oh, Ethernet port as well. I think Ethernet, I don't want to be wrong, but I think an Ethernet 4 port. Yeah, those are all the ports involved. The actual size, the design. It's a very sleek silver, very nice color. The Apple logo is also located up top. Very dark shade of black as well. And yeah, I mean, just with all of the ports available, the power of the M1 Ultra, it's just this is gonna be a machine and a half, dude. And to complement it, you have the brand new Mac Studio display that comes along with this PC or this computer as well. Mac Studio display can put it in a stand position. So if your work's standing up, you could literally adjust. That's the thing about the display. It's really adjustable, which is nice. You could tilt it and you could move it up to adjust it in a standing position or standing posture. The display is being ran with the A13 Bionic, which is going to be good for the overall webcam functionality and everything involving video calls and the speakers as well. They say that they have one of the best phenomenal speaker systems on this Mac. When they revealed the new iMac, the color iMacs, they were going crazy about the speaker system and that. So I wonder if this display is gonna have the best audio quality when it comes to the overall speakers. Seems great. Also, oh, I didn't mention, they also demonstrated how the heating or the cool off worked with the Mac Studio. So essentially you have all the heat going through the overall fans, going through the overall device, and in the back you have your typical vents where you let all your heat go through. So essentially the heat is going through those fans, traveling through on the inside, and as you're doing your typical work, on the back through those vents, the heat will always be traveling out through those typical vents, and it's going to be running quiet. So if you've, for example, if you've owned or if you have a PS5, you know how quiet the PS5 can be. So hopefully, I was thinking about it, hopefully the Mac Studio is going to be as quiet as like a current PS5 with those type of cooling fans. But yeah, the cooling system is very it's very straightforward. You have your vents, you have your cooling fans. It seems to run quiet. It seems to take in a lot of heat as well. So if you're doing a lot of intensive processing work and a lot of video rendering, or a lot of edits that require snapping back and forth, so going from one part or one window to another, then this is good for you because the Mac Studio essentially won't be running hard constantly. But I mean, just like every single device, whatever intensive work that you're doing, your device is gonna run hot no matter what. So yeah, that's the cooling situation. I discussed the ports, the overall design, the Mac Studio display running with the A13. The I forgot the name of it. It's a substance that they added in with the overall display that prevents glare, like overall light glare and sun glare from hitting your screen and just messing with your vision overall and blocking whenever you're on your screen. I forgot what it was called. But that's also coming in with the new studio display as well. So yeah, those are the basic accessories and specs for this powerful machine. And it's exciting, man. It's exciting because for the people that wanted an upgrade to the Mac Mini, they have it. And for the people that wanted a brand new version, a brand new M1 version of the Mac Pro, which is the big $6,000 machine that was revealed a few years back. They also have that, so it's kind of just the perfect in between, like I said, with the Mac Studio. So exciting stuff, man. Exciting stuff, and that's pretty much the event summed up in a few minutes here. There's a lot more to take in. Like I said, there's a lot of numbers that I probably messed up, a lot of stats that I probably messed up, but it's alright. We're just giving our overall opinions of the event and what I thought of it. And honestly, for the first Apple event of the year, it was good stuff. I gotta give it up to Apple. They, like I said, they really meant it when they said peak performance. But also take all of these charts and numbers and stats and specs for grain of salt. I'll say it again. You won't know how powerful these machines are until you actually buy one and use it for your own use. So just take that into consideration when you look at all these graphs and marketing terms or marketing numbers as well. So yeah, that's the March 8th Apple event. I wasn't expecting to go that long on this event, but it's okay. We're 28 minutes in. We still got two more topics that I want to discuss and briefly go over before we end off this week's episode. So we got YouTube is apparently paying podcasters, conveniently enough, to produce film versions of their episodes. Now, when I first read this, I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh wow, and they're getting paid a lot. So we'll get to that in a minute. But at the same time, I was like, how is this gonna work? How is this actually going to work? Like, is this like gonna be like more like a production video, or like an actual film, like a movie version of a podcast episode? Like, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I'm wondering if it's gonna be like Hollywood level, if they're referring to like Hollywood level films for these episode versions, or just like a typical small film or like a typical production film that you see like on YouTube nowadays. Like if you got to watch MKBHD, I wonder if that's the type of videos that they mean. So yeah, it's kind of interesting perspective, a kind of interesting concept to really dig in. But the price that these content creators are currently being paid, I have here that up to $50,000 are being paid to individual shows and $300,000 to podcast networks. Now this is huge. This leads to multiple opportunities for these content creators who have let their voices be heard through their own podcasts and their own platform. And $300,000 is a lot of money, and I wonder if this is going to be a thing now. I wonder if YouTube is really going to be expanding their horizons when it comes to podcasting and podcasting networks, like how Spotify have done. So that's just common thoughts that I have with this news. So up to $300,000, and like I said, they're expanding horizons when it comes to podcasting because they want to make advances with pleasing listeners, not just watchers. So for the people who go on YouTube and actually go and listen to podcasts on YouTube, they want to please that particular area of the audience, not just people who watch videos on a day-to-day basis when they go on the platform. So yeah, this is good for both YouTube and these content creators because it opened up a lot of opportunities and a lot of horizons for the company of YouTube as a whole. So I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to see what they go along with this. If YouTube could actually create like a podcast section, or a whole different app, like YouTube Podcast, where content creators can actually put their platforms and their content there, not only in audio format but in video format as well, because that's what they're trying to accomplish. And I mean, in a way, they're doing that because back in October of last year, YouTube allowed Canadian users to listen to audio without having the app open. And this is a feature, using or listening to an app without having it open. This is a feature that's provided to a lot of premium subscribers. So this is kind of YouTube hinting at the fact that they want to please this particular audience because they know how huge the podcasting community has become over the course of the last I want to say the last. I mean, I'm still relatively new to the space, but I want to say to the last 5 to 10 years, like almost a decade now, that people have been podcasting and sharing stories and putting their voices out there on various amount of topics. So this is huge, man. I say this is a big win for both the company, and a big A plus, I wanted to say, for both the company and these content creators who want to expand all of their horizons. So I'll have to keep updated on this because this is something that definitely intrigued me the most when I was doing research for this episode, and to see how this integration or this move pans out from here on out. So yeah, that's YouTube and podcasting, ladies and gentlemen. YouTube is expanding their horizons, so it should be some exciting times. And alright, the final topic of today is probably going to be another big one, along with the March 8th Apple event, because I have a lot to say for this as well. Oh, before I forget, there's a few key aspects that I took out of these articles when I was reading on this situation for YouTube and podcasting. One of them is, or the major one that I got out of it, was getting popular shows to make accompanying videos that are perhaps exclusive to the platform can help build an audience that wants more than just audios. Like I said, expanding horizons. It's kind of like, if you guys haven't realized, I'm just gonna go off on a small little tangent here. We've had like different motifs, a lot of good motifs throughout these episodes, which is a good thing because it kind of gives the episode a theme. So this week's episode, the major motif here is expanding horizons, with Apple integrating all their custom chips to multiple devices, and now YouTube wanting to really dabble into the podcasting world and grant all these podcasters and content creators more benefits and more success. So like I said, phenomenal stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that before we move on. So now, last topic of this week, disabilities and families. Now, I took questions and statements from two different sources. One of them being a really huge study that was done a few years back. Now, these are questions that I can honestly relate to the T. Now, before we even discuss these questions and go over these questions, I want to make it clear that no family that has a family member, either if it's a child or an adult, a grandfather or their own parents, no family member that has other family members with disabilities has it easy, and we know that. Living with a disability doesn't only impact the person that has the condition directly, but everybody around him, including his family. So just know that not a single family that lives in this world who have to care and nourish people and other family members that have disabilities have it easy. Because if anything, they have it more difficult than anybody. So I just wanted to put that out there before we continue. So in the overall study, before that, sorry. Family life with disabilities is a journey that includes stress and resilience. Like I mentioned, just to segue back to that, nobody has it easy, and the people that do go through these everyday situations are resilient, even with all the stress that they go through on a daily basis. And I know this by a long shot. So yeah, going back to the study questions, there was a call for papers in 2012 And these were some of the questions that were asked or that they were trying to get a lot of answers for. Question number one being, how do families welcome a child with significant disabilities into their family? Now, this is very important, because when you first get the news or when you first find out that either your child or an adult, someone you grew up with who's finally a little bit older, got diagnosed with either a medical condition or a physical disability, whether it's chronic, physical, learning disability, and mental disability, at first, it's a lot to take in, emotionally and mentally. And this is probably a question that probably is in a lot of people's minds that go through situations, and that is, how do I welcome this child to the family? How do I explain to the family that this child has this condition and he or she is gonna be living with this through the rest of their lives? And it's a hard question. It's a lot to, like I said, it's a lot to take in at first glance because no one really expects these things to happen. It's just the course of life. People who are born with disabilities didn't ask to be born with a disability. It's just how things in life go. So same thing goes for the family. It affects the family the same way. We did not ask, or we weren't expecting to be under these circumstances, but at the same time, as a family member, you can't really dwell on that fact for so long. That's the thing about this situation, is that people tend to dwell for a very long time because they're not used to it. This is the first time for them, and this is exactly how it was with me personally, and my parents and my family members. They didn't know how to really accept it at first, and you as somebody, you can't really be mad at the person for not being able to accept it because you understand this is a first time thing. Same thing goes for other families. So yeah, I mean, this is an important question. How do you welcome a child with significant disabilities into your family without having to feel some sort of insecurity or maybe feel sympathy about, what are the family members are going to think? Are they going to start to formulate thoughts, like really negative thoughts? But at the end of the day, as a family to this particular person with a disability, everyone has to come together and realize that this was nobody's fault. This circumstance was nobody's fault, and that we have to care and live and give this person with a disability as much care and support till the end. So honestly, I think that would be the best way to welcome the child with a disability, is with confidence. Don't give a crap about what other family members have to say or assume or think at first glance. Say, the child or the family member has this. They have it hard, but we're gonna be there for them no matter what. We're gonna give mutual support, emotional support, physical support, no matter what, because we love them. At the end of the day, you love that family member no matter what the condition is. So yeah, to answer that question, that's how I personally I would just deal with it. Is just confidently admit it and confidently say it, confidently welcome them to the family. Because like how I mentioned previously in previous episodes of Talkative, people who have disabilities want to be welcomed, whether if it's out in public or even within your own family space. They want to be welcomed. So receive them with open arms without having all these negative formulated thoughts or negative assumptions or worries or just these sorrow thoughts that people tend to develop with these situations. Welcome them, and tell them that they belong here. Tell them that we're going to be here to support you and fight with you no matter what. That's how I would personally deal with this overall question as a whole. So the second question that I took out of this study is, what promotes optimal family quality of life if a member has a disability? So what would promote overall changes or quality of life improvements if a member has a disability? And honestly, if you want me to be honest, the main thing that could promote overall quality of life improvements is support. that's really that's one of the main things that families who deal with these situations on a daily basis or a concurrent basis, that's really what they need is support. Because as long as you have support, everything else around you is going to roll around very nicely. Whether it's work life, social life, if you have people that are willing to stick with you through thick and thin, no matter what the situation is, then everything else just falls in nicely. So yeah, I think overall, if you're listening to this episode right now and you have a current situation, first-hand situation with somebody who has a disability, make sure you find the right people. Make sure you pick your circle wisely and find people that are willing to support you and that won't judge you, prejudge you on the current situation. Because, like I said, support. If you have support, everything else is gonna come nice. Everything else is gonna come the way you want it to come. So support is a big thing, whether it's physical, mutual, emotional. We need support, especially families that go through situations. So that's how I would answer this as well. Support for me would promote optimal family quality of life if a member has a disability. So question 3, on balance, what is the role of work among families with a member with disabilities? What is the role of work among families? Well, despite care, despite loving for the family member, um, I guess the role of work would be to make sure that they are living the best life that they can live, and that in the future, if they have the ability to work, or if they have the ability to get their first house or get their first job, make sure you get the right resources for them. Make sure you give them the right amount of just. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this is a very relevant and important word to this conversation. Just make sure you give them the right amount of support and just overall company and just give them the perfect lifestyle. That's what I want to say. Now, when I mean perfect, I don't mean like perfect where no mistakes are going to be made, no obstacles are going to be present. No, that's not what I mean. Because of course, nothing in this life that we live is perfect. But if you can give them a good life, if you can give them a good life with good treatments and good overall health, the future for that person is bright overall. Because if the person is willing to work, as a parent, I'm going to be able to find the right resources, whether it's through accessibility or the overall workplace, so that my family member or child can be safe while at work. Or if my child wants to thrive for something big and wants to reach his goals, and there are probably particular obstacles that may get into his way because of his condition. I'm gonna try my best to be as transparent and motivating as possible because I know that this person wants to achieve this or this person wants to complete this and wants to do this despite the condition that they have. So, as a parent, grandparent, sibling, just give your child or family member with a disability motivation and the help that they need to prosper and be successful. Because just because you have these persistent conditions doesn't mean that your entire life has to be put on hold or has to be put on a halt. Because yes, there's a lot that we can't do, but there's definitely a lot that we can do. So we gotta look at the cans and not the can'ts. Because that's what's most important. And I know it's easier said than done because I've gone through it myself. I don't mean to get too emotional or too what's the word? When I have these conversations, I tend to get very inspired, very motivated. Not in a sad way, just overall like in a very expressive way because these are conversations that I take to the heart and that I can take very serious. But so if you hear me take a moment to like have a deep breath or just have a moment of thought, just know that I'm just very into this conversation and I want to spread awareness on these situations and perhaps teach you guys something or give you guys something to relate on if you're going through this as well on the other side of the screen. Because let me tell you this: any person that's listening to this right now, if you have a child with a disability, whether it's chronic, mental, learning, physical, and you've gone through it all, you've gone through it all, to say it like that, you are powerful. You are a legitimate superhero, and you are worth a lot. Just know that. Because every time when there's a moment when you feel like you're down, or you feel like you can't do this anymore because you've been through it all, and you're not sure if you have enough in the tank, or if you're starting out with a situation like this, you're not sure if you have it in you to nurture and take care of this particular person, this particular child. You do. You do. Never underestimate your ability. Never belittle yourself because of the situation. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be downs. There's gonna be ups. You're probably gonna be knocked down 7 times, but just make sure you get up 8 more times at that given moment. Because time you get knocked down, you will always find a way to get up, no matter what. So just a little encouragement and just a little words of advice. If you are a parent, sibling, caregiver who has a child with a disability, or any family member with a disability, you got this. You can push through, and you have the ability. Take the connotation of what disabled means and flip it. In this case, you're not disabled. You are able. You're able to push through with this child. You're able to give this child what he or she needs, no matter what. Just know that. Whew. All right. I kind of like conversations like this, even if they get very intensive, because I'm able to just, hopefully inspire others, or touch a lot of people in the heart in a very positive way. So back to the questions, because we're already reaching over 48 minutes, and it's about time that we wrap up. So yeah, to answer question number 2, overall support promotes a optimal, or sorry, that was question number 3. What is the role of work among with family members with disabilities? Make sure you give this person the support that they need, motivation, etc. Just give them the best life that they deserve. So, question number 4 says, how do adults with paralysis or traumatic brain injury resume the multiple roles of parent, spouse, and employee? Now, this is a very tough question, but just to give my brief answer, I pretty much already did in that little segment that I gave. Push through, because despite what you have, that you're here for a reason, that you have a purpose, and that you have to fulfill it no matter what. So my answer to this question was already stated. Just push through. Easier said than done. But if you are a parent that has a disability, or a spouse, or even an employee, you can't stop and expect things to just come your way because if you have this condition. Of course, you're going to have people helping you out. You're going to have benefits, quality of life, overall improvements. But you are the one. You are the teacher of your own life, right? So you have to find the efforts. You have to put the work in to keep it going no matter what, even despite what you're going through. So that's my overall answer for question number 4. Go back and listen to what I said if you want a really thorough answer, because that's exactly how I see it. Push through no matter what. So question number 5 is, what tangible steps might help families to capitalize on their own capacities and those of the community to cope, adjust, and thrive in spite of multiple challenges? Take your time. Take a rest whenever you need it. Take your breaks. Nobody is watching you on how you parent your child. Nobody's watching you about how you care your family. The only person that is caring about what they're doing, or is worrying about what they're doing, is you. So you decide how much time or what time you're going to give yourself. Give yourself time. Don't overwork yourself, because you have the capacity. But once you breach that capacity, you just have to take a moment and breathe. Don't breach your limits, right? Test your limits to as much as you can, but do not overwork to yourself to the point where you're broke, like not legitimately broken, but theoretically broke, mentally burnt out. You do not have to get to that state. So step one would be take your time, take breaks if needed. Reach out to any community groups, reach out to any services, whether it's home health aides or home health care. Reach out and get the resources that you need, because you are one person, and if you are the only one that's caring for this particular person with a disability, you're gonna get tired, you're gonna feel beat, you're gonna feel burnt out. So you need the help that you need. Don't feel like you now with a home health aide or now with overall benefits that you are depending on that particular person. No, it's not dependency, but rather assistance and help. So take the resources that you need. Step 3, do not let demotivating words or people or the critics of other people, the prejudgments of other people, get to your head. You already go through a lot as it is. As a family member who takes care of these particular children or other family members with disabilities, you go through a lot as it is. You giving a shit or you caring about what other people have to say is gonna add more to that stress overall. So keep living your life. Have all the critics and prejudgments from other people be like white noise. Pretend like you've never heard of that, or you're not hearing these type of people, and you'll be alright. So those are just three initial steps that one can take to cope and to just take their time with this process, because this is a process. Caring for a disabled child, disabled family member is a process with a lot to come with it. So take time, breathe, don't rush, don't breach your limits, get all the help that you need, get all the resources that you need, because it's not dependency, but it's assistance for you. You deserve it. And do not give a shit about what other people have to say, whether it's through prejudgments or criticisms, because they're not under your shoes, so of course they will never know. So just take that into consideration. Question number 5. This is a jam-packed episode. Oh my god, we might have to go over an hour. Of course, a few aspects of this might be edited out, but this is pretty much, I tend to keep the content of the entire episode. So yeah, so most of this probably will stay and won't be edited out. But question number 5 says, alright, so different ways caring for a disabled family member can affect the overall family. So these are ways that overall that can bring very negative effects to a family member who has another disabled family member and they're the ones caring for them. Increased stress. I did mention that the amounts of stress are extremely high when you're dealing with the situation overall. Take a toll on mental and physical health. So, disability already takes a toll on the person's physical health, and that kind of transfers into you as well, because if you're doing a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of overall movement and physical activity with the person with disability, it's going to take a toll mentally and physically. Number 3, make it difficult to find appropriate and affordable childcare. As like I said, let me elaborate on what I said about resources and finding the help that you need. It's expensive. Everything, especially here in America, it's expensive and not really as convenient. So finding these resources and affordable childcare is not easy, to say the least, but it's definitely possible. And then number 4, decisions about work, education, training, and having additional children. Yes, this is a thought that is very common. Obviously, I'm not under everyone's shoes, but I can make the broad assumption that this is a very common thought. We contemplate whether or not we want to take a full-time job because we won't be there to spend time or dedicate the time that the child or person with disability needs. Same thing goes for education. Let's say we're a parent and we want to go back to school. That's really going to affect our overall routine and overall life with the child or the person with disability, because we'll have to dedicate more time on classwork and being in class than spending time with them. So it's a hard balance to find. And overall, this is a very sensitive one. But having additional children now, it's not. This is not me going to say don't have the children that you want. To each their own. It's your own life. I'm just talking about the overall thoughts because it is common as well. People tend to contemplate, you know what? I'm good with at least two kids, especially if the two kids are both disabled. And it's just a lot to take in. It's a lot under your plate. So you making that big major decision of having either a third child or a fourth child, it's going to add more to that plate. And there's going to be a point where that plate's going to overflow and everything's just going to fall apart. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, nobody acts to be under these circumstances. It's nobody's fault. It's not the kid's fault. But definitely, it's gonna add more to the plate that's already full. So it's a thought that a lot of people tend to contemplate whether or not they want to have more children when they already have disabled children or family members that have these certain conditions. So those are a lot of different ways that caring for a disabled family member can affect the overall family. And not only just parents or the spouses, but cousins and overall siblings. But like I said, just to wrap up here, you have to be willing to care and give the love that person deserves because you love them no matter what. So as a family, you guys gotta work as a cohesive unit, come together and say, you know what? I'm gonna provide the care and love that this person deserves, that this child deserves, whatever the case scenario is, and just be there for them no matter what. So with that being said, folks, disability fact of the episode, I'm gonna try something different to see if this is a more creative approach with these disability facts. You guys are gonna see once you listen to the episode. But I'm gonna try. If it doesn't work, if the disability facts are missed, we're gonna go back to what we used to do, which is me saying the disability fact before the episode. But yes, I'll leave you guys with the disability fact of the episode. See you guys next week, and hopefully you guys enjoy the weekend, and we'll be back for more with episode 13 of Talkative. Thank you, and take care.